All right. Hey, everybody. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm also really excited. But there was a voice, my imposter syndrome, that some of you know about, that was saying, you're not a good speaker, you're not a very good teacher, as a therapist, you're okay, you stink. But I got over that, and I flew 3,000 miles, and I'm here today, so I'm excited to be here. But there was a voice, maybe a more important voice, that I'm a little bit more worried about, and that came up as soon as I accepted the talk. And that voice said, does your story matter? And as I look around the room, I know a lot of you might be feeling the same thing, might be thinking, does my story matter? Should I be vulnerable? Should I tell my truth and deal with what's going to happen? And I'm here to tell you unequivocally that through reacting, maybe appropriately, reflecting with compassion, and responding, hopefully by the end of this talk, I'll convince you that that's unequivocally yes. So I want to start with a quote. It's by Irvin Yalom's book, The Gift of Therapy, and it says, only the wounded healer can truly heal. And I would consider myself a wounded healer. And I thought that as soon as I got this tattoo, actually, that I stuck on my back right shoulder. That to me was supposed to be a moment, by the way. It was supposed to be a moment of sustained recovery. I was on a beautiful trip, an alternative break trip through Keene State, and I thought, this is it. This is my moment. Well, that moment unfortunately came and went, and so did my recovery. I had a moment where I went to the Keene State Counseling Center, and I thought, this is it. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to get therapy. But my therapy was me just coming in and complaining about my friends. So that didn't work out all that well. I was covering all the superficial stuff, and I never dug deeper. That moment, unfortunately, came and went. There was a moment that I got into a long-term relationship with this amazing girl, and I thought, this is it. This is my moment. I'm going to be okay taking off my shirt in front of people. I'm going to feel comfortable in my own body. This will finally be my moment. Unfortunately, that moment came and went, and so did the relationship. And then finally I thought, okay, I'm in graduate school. I'm at the University of Connecticut getting my MSW. And for all of you MSWs out there, yeah, we're the best. Yeah. And I got to the end of that degree and I thought, this is it, external validation. This is what I needed. Unfortunately, I was looking in all the wrong places for validation. I was looking in all the wrong places to sort of feed the parts of me that needed compassion. And unfortunately, the one common denominator that was left was something that I couldn't control, and it was something that I couldn't really run from. It was staring me right in the face. And that was a significant eating disorder with situational depression. And for you psychologists and social workers and mental health people, situational depression is not a DSM-5 diagnosis. I made it up. It's my term. Because it explains exactly what I was going through, because a lot of you in the audience and a lot of people at home know that I was mostly happy. I lived a life where I made connections, I made friends, I was excited, I was ambitious, and the person you're seeing right now, that was me. But there was also a guy who was restricting all day, trying to figure out meal plans, always using MyFitnessPal, could not make one single decision on whether or not to go out with friends without thinking, what's this going to mean for my body? I was intensely struggling for years, but I could never face it. So yes, this is a story about self-reflection. It's a story about self-analysis. But I didn't have that for a long time. So let me tell you what I went through. First of all, my self-analysis never really started with me. I let you guys decide who I was. For my professors out there, if you said I was a high-functioning psych major who was going places, I believed you for a little bit. And then I went out, and unfortunately, I weighed that up against my self-hatred and the things that I really, all of these different negative thoughts that came boiling up when I was struggling with this disorder, and thought, well, they might be right, but they don't see this other guy. The other thing was that my blind spot was control. And that's the thing with eating disorders, for those of you who aren't really acquainted with them, is that we fight all day for control. We do it through MyFitnessPal. We do it through working out twice a day. We do it through not going out and isolating instead. We try to get back control any chance we can get. But we know we're going to lose it at a moment's notice. And I think the best way for me to explain that is through Keene State graduation. Because that morning, I worked out twice before 7 a.m. Nobody knew that I did it. I didn't eat breakfast that morning. I had about 3 or 4 mimosas. That was a good move, right? And then I walk out onto that stage, and I am pumped. And we talk about the brain. I'm supposed to put some science into this TED Talk. So my limbic system was freaking out because I was ready to eat. I was ready to have fun. But those two voices, they always colluded against each other. So when I crossed that stage, I was excited. But unfortunately, many nights happened like this. I was excited because I knew the next thing I was going to do was lose control. So that's when my shame really began to swallow me whole, by the way, because now I'm living two lives. And, at this point, I'm thinking, who's going to notice this? Like, when is someone going to call me out on eating the hot dog and not the bun? Like, I'm not keto. So I'm thinking to myself, when's someone going to call me out? I was not hiding my shame. My shame meter was like, screw it. And I finally get to the UConn Counseling Center where I'm doing the best internship of my life. And I get, part of my personality is that I'm very charismatic. And I go through the whole year fooling everybody into thinking that I'm killing it. Objectively, I think I was a pretty good therapist then. So I was pretty pumped about myself. But anyways, I make all these friends, I make all these connections in the counseling center, and I had this one supervisor who does Gestalt therapy. And for those of you who don't understand Gestalt therapy, it's freaking terrifying. So my supervisor, unfortunately, was sort of sneakily, checking me out the whole year. He never really said much to me. He was kind of just watching my nonverbals, which is what Gestalt therapists do. They just watch your nonverbals and wait for you to crack. And I cracked. I get in with him in my last meeting of the year, and I tell him, I'm so excited. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a job in Boston or California. I'm so pumped. And he goes, Cody, just stop. And I'm like, oh, crap. And he goes, you're so curious about everybody else. I've seen you do it. So why is it that you're not curious about yourself? And so I'm taken back because I thought I had fooled him. I'm thinking, man, what's he talking about? Why is he calling me out? I got defensive. The next thing he says really put me on my ass. He goes, why is it that you have been doing this work this whole time, and as a therapist going out in the field, he goes, it's time for you to do the internal work that you need to become a real therapist. I'm shook. Because my ego was pretty big for someone who was binging Pop-Tarts at 1 a.m. I was struggling, but I didn't talk myself into it, so I recoiled. I think I might have cried on my way home that night. I called a few friends. I said, holy crap. But I never told them what was going on. And unfortunately, my story stayed hidden. I pushed it right back down. And my next move was not one of my best, and my parents are going to love to hear this, but part of the reason why I moved out to California was because I needed to get the hell out of here. Someone had found me out. So I moved 3,000 miles away to take a 25-hour-a-week job. I was like, oh, screw it, I got this. I'll totally figure it out. And that's what I'm good at, is that I figure it out. So I go out there, sorry, Mom and Dad, and I fill up my plate, which is so Cody of me. To fill up my plate, I join this private practice. I start teaching. I'm doing the thing that I love. But the disorder got worse because now I'm lonely. Before at least I had friends and I had connections and I could still be me. But now I'm in a totally new place with all these new people. And I'm starting to burn at both ends. So this is the part where usually in the TED Talk, I should do some reflecting. And I'm thinking to myself, as I wrote this, I'm like, there needs to be some sort of divine intervention. There needs to be a point where I thought, oh, this is it. And so I can tell everybody that this was the time that I said, I'm going to figure my life out. Time to reflect, and you guys are going to learn something from me. Well, it came in the form of me standing in front of my shared kitchen at the private practice with 4 hours left, 4 clients, me totally spinning out of control because I didn't bring dinner that day. And I had 6 ounces of grilled chicken. I had weighed it out. I weigh it out every day. I had a bag of vegetables, which, by the way, a bag of peas and carrots is so boring for a year. Don't do it. I don't recommend it. And I said to myself, I can't do this anymore. So I called the therapy office next door. And I said to myself, well, if they don't pick up, then I'm not going to go. Because I know, though, my disorder will do that to me. It'll say, oh, well, it wasn't the right time. You might have to move somewhere else first. So I called and they answered. And now I'm not here to tell you that therapy sort of saved my life. I'm not here to tell you that I gained all this insight from therapy, which, by the way, you do. It's a big deal. I'm like plugging myself now. But I needed to share my story some way or another. And let me give you a few points of what ended up happening to me. First of all, my story wasn't a dirty little secret anymore. I carried it around like as if I was trying to it was like a dead body. And I had to come face to face with vulnerability and say, wait a minute, I need to own this story. And I didn't know how yet, but I knew that it needed to be shared. The other thing is that I had to stop fixing things. And I remember specifically, I love this analogy. I got oh crap, I probably shouldn't say the maker brand, just in case. I got a really bad car. I got into a car accident, and then I bought a new car. And that car was a piece of crap. Right from the get-go, it smelled like cigarettes, and I trashed it with seltzer cans, and I still have clothes in there from 2016. And it was just gross. It was my own personal laundry basket. And my parents always used to tell me, they'd go, well, you're never going to bring a girlfriend in there. What are you going to do? How are you going to show them your car? Well, if they were psychologists, they'd know that the representation of me was that car, because I wasn't letting anybody in that thing. There was no way I was letting people in. Because what would they have seen? They would have seen that I was the destruction that was my inner world. So what I had to do was clean the car, and I had to let people into the car to sort of, clean the bottles out. You guys get the analogy. So anyways, I had to stop fixing things. And part of me doing that was telling my story and letting people in. The people that I trusted the most first, they helped clean out the bottles, and then someone gave me an air freshener. You get the point. The other thing is I had to stop making so many decisions. Therapy had me come face to face with something that I still can't believe to this day, and I'm glad I'm sharing it. But it was that I made over 50 decisions in a day about my food, or about food and about exercising. Think about how many decisions you make in a day as someone who doesn't have to perseverate in the shower about, when am I going to go to the gym? Will I go to the gym today? Do I even like lifting weights? Should I go play basketball? What if I have a beer later? Oh crap, am I going out to dinner tonight? You didn't buy enough groceries. Do you want oatmeal? That's a lot of carbs. I did that every single day. And most days my brain would just quit and the disorder would take over. So I had to really get a handle on that. And now I'm responding to the parts of me that need love, that need self-compassion. I try to listen to my body more. And also, as soon as I started listening, I started noticing that I was a little bit happier because I was responding to the parts of me that weren't so worried, that weren't so caught up in fear. And I think the last thing is that, I had talked about moments that didn't work out for me at the beginning of the talk. And here's a couple moments that I really appreciate and that I'm so grateful to be talking about right now. There was a moment where I was sharing a relapse with one of my best friends, who's actually in the audience, even though I can't see them. Sam, thank you. That was a moment for me, a moment where I was finally able to be vulnerable and share a story with someone who was going, who could hear me for who I was. I had a moment on a cruise ship with my mom, and I'll remember this forever because poor her, I externalized anger on her for years. I'd call her up and I'd be like, why aren't you listening to me? She had no idea that the reason why I was so mad at her was because I thought that she couldn't understand me, but I wasn't telling her anything. She's like, why are you so mad? And I'm like, well, you know. And she had no idea. So we went so poor her. So we go for a walk, an hour-long walk around this boat so I can sort of tell her my story. And, it comes out in the weirdest places, but we've never been closer. And finally, I should say that this story, I think I might have told like a handful of people before even coming up on the stage. So, if we're talking about moments in recovery, this is a moment. It's also an accountability piece because this crap's going to be on YouTube. So this is a big moment for me, and this is why I'm so grateful to do the work that I do. Now's the time where I tell you that I'm a therapist because I drowned myself in my truth for years, as men do. And now I can sort of create a life raft of support for people. I never knew I could be an advocate like this. So what I've done is create that life raft for the people I work with, the people I serve, the people who need it the most, the people like me who needed it years ago. And I'm so grateful to be doing the work that I do. It's made me more grateful for the work that I do. So I was thinking about how I'd end this talk. And I think a lot of you are going to come up to me and this is one of those stories where it's like, well, where are you now? Well, I'll tell you where I am now. And I'll tell you sort of like, what did I learn? What should you learn? What I learned, funny enough, what I learned is that, I've been in my head for years responding to the wrong part of me. And that's crazy to think about, right? So what I would tell you and what I've been telling myself is to not respond out of fear, to not respond out of something that you don't think you can control. Don't respond to the things and the parts of you that you don't think deserve listening to. Because the honest to God truth is that once you tell your story, you'll be received in a way that you could have never imagined. And I could have never imagined it either. You strip off that warm blanket of, in my case, addiction, and I was raw. And I'm raw right now. And that's the point, is that when you're raw, you're down to learn anything. You're down to pick up new tips, new tools, make new connections, join new groups, and be the person that you're meant to be. The people that you all saw, but I could never internalize. So, to end this talk, it's all about reacting, reflecting, and responding in some order. So I would ask you, the next time that you're thinking about something that you're really struggling with, to gently, gently, gently react. Compassionately reflect on the person who needs support, who needs love, and who deserves love. And humbly and very, empathetically respond, yes, thank you.